He was able to go from zero to $12 million a month on TikTok Shop within 1 month.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tom here. Welcome back to episode 3 of Trenches. Now, before we get into this podcast, what happened was we released episode 3 and was going to be a episode deep dive on a event that I went to a few weeks ago in Vancouver, held by a group called MDS. And they had a really interesting entrepreneur there. His name is D. He's the founder of the Goalie supplement, one of the fastest growing OG D2C brands in the supplement space. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot about them. But I guess in the podcast, I shared some information that I learned at the event that shouldn't be shared publicly. I actually wasn't aware that D didn't want this message to get out in the masses. So it's fine sharing in the group and so on and so forth, but just not on the internet. So obviously, it wasn't my intention to do that. So I took down the podcast out of the respect I have for Eugene, Ian from MDS, as well as D. So I asked them if it's okay for me to maybe share some other things that I learned from the podcast, from the event itself, relating to goalie that are maybe not as sensitive. And they said sure. So yeah, I'm just going to share 4 points that I learned from D's presentation. So the first thing is never ever stock out. I know this sounds so simple, but he said, hey, look, there's so many companies on TikTok Shop. There's so many companies that almost think stocking out is a really, really good thing. Oh my God, we've sold out. It creates FOMO. It's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't create FOMO. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but overall, you want to be in stock because the problem on TikTok Shop, especially when you sell out, is that the creators gets pissed because they need you to make money in order for them to make money. That is super, super important. That's point number one. He did share some tactics inside of this mastermind, this event, where you can prevent that from happening. But obviously, the most important thing is cut your lead times. Cut your lead times. There were companies there with 60-day lead time, 90-day lead time. It's like, that is too long. Try your very best to cut down your lead time because that's going to be the single most important lever you can pull to prevent yourself from stalking out. And in reality, I think nowadays you can really use Claude or any sort of LLM to be a demand, to predict the demand of your product. So yeah, stocking out. Number two is you mentioned someone asked him like, hey, if I have $50,000 to pour into a marketing channel in 2026, which one would you pour into? And he said, well, I wouldn't do TikTok shop right off the bat because it's just going to cost you so much more. TikTok Shop is really, I think a lot of people at the event realize that TikTok Shop maybe is not really it's more of a, I guess, a top of funnel channel, meaning you're generating demand, not necessarily sales. So if you're just starting off the bat, do not do the TikTok Shop route. Instead, Meta is still king. So create some landing pages, create some ads, drag in some traffic to the landing page. That's probably where you want to put most of your ad dollars into. Number 3 is make your first order profitable. So I think now, especially right now, as I'm filming this, July 22nd, 2026, there's been a few large acquisitions. There's been a few large raises in the capital markets for D2C brands. And I think a lot of the message is like, hey, your first order is not going to be profitable. Payback period can be 3 to 6 months, so on and so forth. But one thing you have to realize is that these people raised a lot of money. They raised millions and millions and millions of dollars. So they're able to enjoy that. But for someone like me who's bootstrapping this brand, I almost felt like I got brainwashed a little bit by that messaging. It's like trying to convince myself, hey, if the big guys are doing this, then so can you. He said the worst business is a type of business where you need to put more money in order for it to grow. So he really focuses a lot on first order profitability. So I think if you're listening to this right now, running a brand, I think that's definitely, you want to be profitable on the first order. So that's changing your offers, increasing the AOV, maybe selling a 3-pack, 5-pack, maybe having a post-purchase upsell or whatever it might be, maybe email marketing, but do whatever you got to do to make your first order profitable. I think that is super, super important. And don't compare yourself to the guys that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars in order to do this and grow at all costs. And lastly is make things simple. So I know it sounds so simple, but I think in business, it's so easy to work on so many different things. You're juggling 5 different plates, and that's almost nearly impossible. And he just said simple scales and complexity fails. So even just using Google Docs, Google Sheets to do something. You don't have to get the latest software and pay for this and pay for that and having this talk to that. It's a completely complex system. And I think just the prompt that you can ask yourself is like, how can I make this super, super simple? How can I eliminate certain steps from this equation so that everything can simplify a little bit? So, anyways, a little bit of a weird intro just because we have to take down the lab podcast and this I'm doing one just to camera. But what I'll do is you'll still get to hear the conversation between me and Ryan for the remainder of the podcast. We're going to try to salvage as much as possible, but I'm going to be taking out the part in this podcast that was already recorded with Ryan where D didn't want to, or the MDS didn't want to share this information out in the open, which again is very understandable. So thank you all for listening, and yeah, enjoy the rest of this episode.
All right, what's up, guys? It's Tom and Ryan. We're back with episode 3 of Trenches. Episode 3. I like the number 3. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in, guys. We got a banger episode today. But first, Ryan, how's life? What's any cool updates? What's going on in the life of Ryan?
Man, this is like a major first world problem, but I've been trying to figure out how to get a new vehicle for like the last 2 weeks. I've had this Hummer EV for 2 years. I leased it, and I thought like I didn't really think about it too much when I got it because my other vehicle was having problems. But I thought, after 2 years, if I like it, I'll just keep leasing it. Turns out they don't let you keep leasing it. So I was hoping that I could be able to get like a one of those new Denali EVs, but there's nothing anywhere in British Columbia. So I got a compromise with the dealership, and they're letting me continue to lease this truck until if I ordered one. So I've got an order, but who knows how long before I get it. So I'll get to continue driving my vehicle for the time being. But yeah, it's not super interesting, but that's what's going on with me. How about you? How's things with you?
Good. I got back from a golf trip. I went down to Tacoma, Washington. And there's a few championship courses in Tacoma, Washington. So every single year we do kind of a boys golf trip. Last year we actually did the same trip just because we like the trip so much. We like the courses so much. So we played at the home course, the Chambers Bay, which is honestly one of my favorite golf courses. And we played at another course. It's a sleeper. It's called Olympic course. And we also played at Tacoma. But the funny thing is golf is probably one of the only things that I've done in my life where if you put in a lot of work over a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the time frame is, you could shoot a lower score today than say 3 years ago, even though you have been playing every single day, even though you've been improving every single day, because the variance in the game is so much. Like I don't remember the last time I shot 100. Like I'm a 7 handicap. So usually I shoot like
I'm a terrible golfer. What's 7 handicap mean? Does that mean you're
usually I shoot like low 80s. Like that's my standard round, like low 80, like 81, 82, 83. And then sometimes I will break 80, like 77, 78. But then if I played really bad, it will be like 86, 87. That's kind of the range.
Yeah.
But then I shot like 100, which is like something I haven't done really since I started playing golf, which was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't you just start like 4 years ago? That's pretty crazy progress to make in such a short period of time.
Yeah, but I've plateaued, so I haven't been able to get down to a lower handicap. And now I think it's all mental. Like for me, whenever I've noticed myself, like whenever I hit a bad shot on the course, like I was playing really well at Chambers, and then I have this one shot where it's called a miss. So I have this one miss that is like super scary for me. Because usually when I have that miss, the ball is dead. So it's like I get penalized. And then it came out. And then that just hunted me for the rest of the round. I'm like, don't have that miss, don't have that miss, don't have that miss. And then if that's the internal dialogue you have in your head, then you can't play the sport because your body basically like freezes up. You shouldn't have anything in your head. But I feel like for me now, it's like a lot of mental. And so it's interesting.
I was gonna say,
I think the big thing is like letting go when you're playing the sport, like letting go and let your body flow. And that's usually when you play the best.
You put in all this effort to learn how to be good at it, and then the second you overthink it, like things go to shit. Like I golf, I'm a terrible golfer, but the more I think about what I'm doing and trying to control like every aspect of it, the worse I do. And
Yeah.
I've had this conversation a lot lately because my kids play lacrosse, and I was a goalie when I played lacrosse when I was a kid, and it was like at the beginning of the game, if you save the first shot, it's like every shot that you do or you save, sorry, like compounds on top of each other, and like you just get into that flow state, and like the ball winds up hitting you, or like you hit the ball in the right spot, but every single goal you let in, or every single like bad swing you take in golf, it's like it like compounds negatively, and like every you start second guessing yourself, and you overcorrect and you overcompensate and wind up like doing progressively worse because you're overthinking and you're like overreacting. It's actually funny because I think that often flows into business as well. Like when things are going well, and everything seems to be ripping, everything you do seems to turn to gold. And then when you get in a bad position, like you're tight on cash flow, or you're not hitting your targets, all of a sudden you're working from this like place of scarcity, and you're doing things out of desperation instead of like doing what you've like learned over the years, and executing based on patterns you already have inside of you, And I think
Yeah.
it's interesting. There's a big correlation there between sport and business.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think self-awareness is super important when it comes down to that, right? Like you got to know your own patterns and your own tendencies, and you have to be self-aware enough to catch up on that. So I can relate to that 100% because I'm a firm believer, and I kind of learned this lesson over the past few years of being an entrepreneur, is we make the best decisions when we are in the flow state, when we are in a calm state, when our mind is peace, quiet, and we can think from a place of abundance rather than desperation. I truly believe that is when we can make the best decisions in business, in sports, in whatever it might be in life. And but the problem is it's kind of hard sometimes to put yourself in that position, in that mindset, because maybe your ROAS is down, maybe your cash flow issue, and all these external events are triggering you. All these external events are essentially making you in a desperate mode, right? So I think, yeah, so I think it's so important to be making wise decisions from a place of calmness and stillness. And obviously, it's much easier said than done. But I just think that even in business, like, the first two businesses I built, I had success with them because I approached it from a place of fun, from a place of, I have this like feeling that I get when I can't figure something out and I need to figure it out or else I cannot go to sleep. And it's not because
Yeah.
of like any other reason. It's like a puzzle. Like to me, it's like a puzzle that I just have to crack the code. And if I don't crack the code, I'm like, dude, I can't go to sleep tonight. I'm like thinking about it in my dreams. Think the first thing I get up in the morning, you're laughing because you know this as well. And I think every
100%.
single entrepreneur has this as well, right? And I think when you can get into a state, whatever you want to call that state, that's when you can produce your absolute best work, right?
Yeah.
So I think like for me, I learned that lesson because my last business, FBA Masterclass, at the tail end of it, I was so burnt out and I was started making like really, really bad decisions. To be honest, like I started being a person that I don't even like myself. Like I didn't even like that version of Tom because it was just I wasn't aligned, fully aligned with the business and the partners and so on and so forth. But having said all that, now I am trying my very, very best and trying to get myself into a place of like the playfulness so that when I do have to make hard decisions, I can make those decisions from a place of, you know, calmness and long-term vision rather than something like a quick fix. Oh, I need to get this done today. I need to get this done today. But it is a balance as well, right? It's like in business, you do want to move fast, but at the same time, you don't want to just be like headless chicken that's running around making crazy decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different kinds of stress in business too, right? Like when you're trying to crack a code, I mean, solve a problem, crack a code, whatever you want to call it, and you're excited about it. I think the deadlines and the pressure not coming from a place of how am I going to feed my family today? They're coming from the place of like, oh my God, just so excited about solving this problem and cracking this nut that I want to get it. I want to get it out as quickly as possible. And I think high performing people, especially like business perspective or business state, they put those pressures on themselves. Like, like I'm the same way as you. If I have something in my head, I was telling you before we started this call, like I've been building something in Claude Code, and I basically burned through a max 20 plan plus $600 in API credits over the 3 days in the weekend because I was staying up till like 2 in the morning working on this stuff, and then getting up in the morning and like having it continue, and then like looking at my phone and setting it back up. I'm not saying that this is healthy, but like when you get that thing in your head that you want to get through, like it doesn't go away unless you're until you figure it out, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Well, let's dive into this pod. So Ryan's gonna share with us a little bit about all the cool things he's doing with Claude.
We have a mutual friend named, Brian, and we've had a lot of conversations around this. And he has this like fundamental belief that like 2 to 6 of those types of people will build your entire career. Find like 2 to 6 people that are hungry like that, have the capability to learn, solve problems, and want similar things to you. And he's like 2 to 6 people like that, and you can pretty much build anything.
I think for me, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to get your opinion on this, but to me, that person will probably just end up like learning from you and then just go build their own thing. Unless you like compensate them really, really, really well, where to the point where like it's not even worth it for them to go out and build their own thing.
So, I mean, I think like, if you just want this person to be a straight up employee, like, sure, I think, and they have the appetite to be an entrepreneur, because not everybody has the appetite to be an entrepreneur, right? Like, there's lots of sales guys who have very entrepreneurial type personalities, but they just want to sell stuff and get commissions, right? Like, I'm not saying these people are salespeople, but like, I think you need to, as an entrepreneur or as a builder, you need to identify these people that do have the value. And ideally, they're not just trying to be clones of you. They have potential skill sets or strengths and things that you might not necessarily be strong in, so that they can complement you. And then you structure their pay or relationship in a way where they somehow over long term either get equity or phantom equity or profit sharing or something that incentivizes them to stick around, and then gradually move into like some sort of like partnership type agreement if they're the right people. But like, I can give you an example. When I was still working inside True Earth and I was the CMO, I wanted to hire a director of marketing, and I went through the whole entire process. And it's funny, I was trying to find Ryan 2.0. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do this in the beginning, thinking that they want to like, find somebody that can do the same things that they can do. And the further I got down the process, I realized I don't actually need Ryan 2.0. I need somebody that does the things that I don't do well and has these characteristics that you're talking about, has experience potentially in other areas that we want to move towards, that I can teach what I know and I can also learn from them. So there's like this symbiotic relationship. And I wound up hiring a guy named Kyle, who was like probably the best hire I've ever had in my life, if he's listening to this. And he worked with us for a couple of years before he decided to move on and focus on his family a little bit more. But like, dude, everything that you just said, amazing guy, had all sorts of experience in things that I didn't have experience in. He's much more of an operator character who was strong execution, great at managing people, a whole bunch of things that I wasn't strong in. So anyways, this is a really long way to say it, but like, I think finding somebody that complements you instead of like duplicates you, that has all these other traits, is worth investing in. And just to kind of wrap up that point, I think that like, if you're only hiring these people and if you want to find people to build with in the long run, you have to find ways to incentivize them based on what they want to get out of life, right?
So I have a friend, his name is Tom as well, and he owns a few restaurants in Vancouver, and they all crush. One of them is Tom Sushi. I'm not sure if you've ever been, but he has this thing where he would actually he has a goal of opening up a lot of restaurants under this one group that he's creating. And what I love about that is he actually has a rule in his restaurant where, and this is like everybody knows this, is that if you become a top performer and if you're really dedicated to your job and if you become a good manager or good whatever, he will actually open up a restaurant with you. So the next restaurant that he opens up, he will make you the GM, to which then you're entitled to like profit sharing and so on and so forth. So I think that is quite interesting Because for someone like D or whatever, if you are building multiple brands and you're hiring someone who's an absolute killer, and you know that maybe this person came here to learn and one day they might just F off and just like do their own thing. I think what could be really cool is for you to just tell them upfront, be like, and for the whole entire company to know, it's like, hey, whoever performs best here, like the next brand that I launch, like you will be the head of that brand. And
Yeah.
then we'll do like profit sharing. And then that way that person will be like, oh my God, great. Like, because then the incentive of them going and launch their own brand is actually not a whole lot more, right? Because they have to invest their own capital and so on and so forth. I think that would be really, really cool. Second, this is the quick one, but one of the rules that he has is simple scales, complexity fails. So we were talking about ERP and different software and NetSuite and this and that. And he basically said, just guys, like, you can just use everything. You can just do spreadsheet for everything. Like you don't have to make this complex. And then if you take a look at like Goalie, like when they first started, it was like a hero SKU. It was like 14.95, or it was like, oh, well, it was a little bit more. So what happened to Goalie was they sold to private equity, and then private equity basically crashed it, and then they rebought it back. But before the whole selling thing, basically they said we kept everything so simple. The offering was so simple. Everything is so simple. So he really, really emphasized on this point. And I do agree, especially when you're running a little bit of a larger organization and communication sometimes can, it's hard to communicate with everybody. You got to do your best to keep everybody, like to keep things as simple as possible. I think that's definitely a hack right there.
Occam's razor, right? I don't know if you're familiar with Occam's razor, but it's like
I've heard of that saying. What does
yeah,
that
it's
mean?
the principle is like the problem-solving principle stating that when faced with competing explanations for the same phenomenon, you should prefer the one that makes the fewest assumption, requires the least complexity. So usually the easier solution or the simpler solution is better.
Is the best one.
Yeah. I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I think you can apply that to just about anything. Copywriting, if you over explain things or you make things boring or long or whatever, like you lose people.
I do wonder why we have the human tendency, especially maybe for entrepreneurs, to like make things a little bit more complex, a little bit like hard on ourselves. I wonder if that's, yeah, I do wonder why that is.
I think that's
Like
like
so many
the
times the
yeah.
obvious answer is right in front of us.
It's like the root of anxiety too, right? It's like you run situations through your head and it's like doing a loop the loop around like in a car driving around a circle and there's exits all over the place, but just choosing not to get off because you don't know what's on the outside of either one of those things. It's easier for your brain to keep looping and going, what
Mm,
if, what if, what
mhm,
if? And
mhm,
then you build these layers of complexity that you think are like protective layers or like backup plans that you probably just don't need.
mhm. Yeah. So that's the second point. The third point, so this is the really interesting, this is, I would say, like the gold of the presentation. It's that you can tell he looks like a finance guy. I'm not sure if he is. I'm not sure if whatever, but he seems like he has a very strong financial background. And what he conveyed during this presentation is that he was able to basically create this financial instrument with Goalie where he basically said, I hate a business where it requires more money to grow. He's like, he thinks that is one of the worst businesses. He loves a business where the business can grow on itself for itself. How is that possible? Right. So he was able to get his lead time down to 14 days. He was able,
Lead time is manufacturer for product, like to,
yes, lead time
yeah.
manufacture product in 14 days.
Wow.
14 days. He was able to get it for 14 days. And you can tell he's kind of like, he's got that like savagery part of him where I can just imagine him like talking to a manufacturer, be like, listen, if you can't do it, we'll find someone else. Like
Yeah.
he's like, I need this to be 14 days. He said the manufacturers also must carry 4 months of raw ingredients at all times because he's like, there's nothing worse in business than stocking out. He's like,
Yeah.
I go on TikTok shop and all these brands are screaming at the top of their lungs like, oh yeah, we sold out, we sold out, we sold out, as if it's a good thing. He's like, dude, why are you celebrating that? That is the worst possible thing. Because on TikTok, going off the tangent a little bit, but on TikTok, when you sell out, guess who doesn't get paid? Your creators.
Yeah.
Creators wants to get paid, so they're going to promote someone else's product.
They're kind of using that as an urgency tactic and probably aren't actually selling out though. I think that that's a more of an abused psychological manipulation tactic than
Oh,
anything
you mean
else.
for brands that say that they're sold out?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't
okay.
think I
But
don't
I
think
mean,
we're congrats. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but there are some brands that for sure like sell out, right? Especially on TikTok, because sometimes like it takes one viral video to hit, and then you're like, oh my God, how do I even do demand planning? So
Yeah.
he said he was able to go from 0 to $12 million a month on TikTok Shop within 1 month or something. He's like, they became the fastest growing TikTok Shop brand on TikTok Shop. And he was very proud to say, like, he doesn't know any other brands. Every single other brand stocked out, and he was the only brand that never stocked out.
Crazy.
Yeah, and how he went about doing that again is 14-day lead time. The manufacturer must carry 4 months of raw ingredient at all times so that if something bad happens, they can manufacture right away, because we've all heard of stories where the manufacturer's like, hey, listen, like we can produce this, but we can get the raw ingredient from someone else. Like this is not our fault. So he's
Yeah.
mitigating that. And then he said they have 4 months of inventory at all times and 4 months of inventory in the storage. I believe that was what he said. I'm not 100% sure, but he was able, and then what he's able to do is he's able to run this negative cash cycle where he has a net like 60, net 90 with the manufacturer,
Yeah.
right? Then on the back end, there's like a revolving line of credit of some sort. So he's able to manufacture this cycle of financial instrument to which if you want to fund more inventory, he didn't need to put more money into the business, his
Right.
own money into the business.
Yeah.
So that was very, very eye-opening to me, because I think in consumables, I was under the assumption that, oh, your first order cannot be profitable. And I kind of just accepted that. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, my CAC is probably going to be 90. Like, I'm not going to be, my payback period is going to be 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it might be. And I was like, okay, that's probably the playbook that, that's going to work. But he said, like, he wants to be profitable on first order to fund the second order.
Right.
And something else he said that was really interesting is, hey, when you work with agencies, if you tell them you need a 4x ROAS, they will get you a 4x ROAS. If you tell them you only need a 2x ROAS, they'll get you a 2x ROAS. So you need to tell them exactly what you need. So afterwards, I came back and I calculated everything. Like for me, I haven't talked to the manufacturer side of things yet, but yeah, I need to get my CAC down to like 40 to 50 in order
Right.
for me to be profitable on the first order.
Either you get your CAC down to 40 or 50, or you change the offer to allow you to have a larger CAC, right? Like that's one place where a lot of brands tend to fail is they're like, oh, my product's $29. I need to get like a $10 CPA. This will never work. Well, it's like, so then if your unit economics work and your margins make sense, the way to structure that, and I know you've messed with this with your new brand as well, is that you need to structure an offer that incentivizes people to take larger volumes initially to make it so that your EPAs make sense based on your average order value is, right? And your margins. So you see it a lot in supplement businesses where they'll have like their offers will be like 1 month purchase, 3 month purchase, 6 month purchase, or 1 month purchase, 3 month purchase a year. And they have this value stack that massively incentivizes you to take the larger purchase. So like sometimes when you can't get your CP down to $40, you have to adjust your offer so that you can make your CPA whatever the kind of like organic CPA or wherever your like kind of like homeostasis is for what it costs you to get a customer, that you can get that you can actually make money by changing your offer and offering multiple instances of the same product to get it up over that number.
Absolutely. Speaking of testing offers, I kind of want to pick your brain on this. So, a lot of CRO agencies I talk to, they're basically like, hey, listen, come back to us once you get like 100 sessions per month on your website. That's when we can kind of like do some heavy lifting. But at the very beginning, can you talk to us a little bit about how you go about the tactical side of how you go about testing offers? I mean, I know there's tools like IntelliGems and stuff like that, but like some people have said, hey, like it doesn't even make sense to use IntelliGems until you have 50,000 sessions per month. Are you just running multiple landing pages? Each of these landing pages have a different offer, and then you're running the same ads and then just kind of seeing that way in Meta? Or like, how are you actually going about testing offers?
There's a million different ways, and the thing that's difficult when you have a newer brand is that like a lot of your data is going to be kind of directional, and you're not going to get to like statistical significance. So like you're going to have to use your gut a little bit. But I find that a lot of the time in the beginning, you're really trying to figure out what messaging resonates with your audience. So like, maybe you sell whatever it is you sell. Like somebody was the other day was talking to me about like, oh, you need to be the first to the market with this supplement or that supplement. I'm like, no, not really. You just need to take a couple different supplements or put them into one and produce something that solves a problem for like one particular group of people. And I think like initially, like that's kind of the hard work because like you can see on Amazon or you can see other places that like certain categories of products are doing well. So it's kind of like finding a group of people that are kind of like white space where people are underserved and creating messaging for them that makes them feel like this is the right product for them right now relative to other things that they tried that didn't work. So like that's a little bit long-winded, but like right now, I talked about this last time. I really like the idea of starting with a basic quiz to get people into your brand. And the reason why is that you can ask a bunch of different questions that gives you insights into who is interested in this product and what their pain points are, what their life looks like before they take in your product and like what they want out of the product. And you can kind of kill two birds with one stone because you can ask a bunch of questions and then you can you've got a history in sales as well. The easiest way to convince somebody to buy something is to, take their particular situation and I don't want to say parrot it back to them, but like say, hey, these are all the things that you're feeling and this is why this is going to work. And this is why the things that you've tried before, which you've just told me didn't work because they don't deal with the thing. So you make sales and you also gather information and then you can use that information to either create new creative that's geared specifically towards that person or build landing pages or quizzes that cater to that very specific person in these very specific scenarios. So is there like an easy way to do it? Not really. Like, I've spent $20,000 on a new brand over the last since March trying to crack the code. And I'm finally, after 4 months now, getting to the point where we're about break even on first purchase on a subscription product, which is huge. I'm super excited about it. But it took me $20,000 of fucking around to get to that point. It's not like there's not like an easy hack where you can be like, oh, I want to spend back in the day, people would be like, you spend 3 times the cost of the product on your drop shipping product. And if it doesn't sell, move on to the next thing. It's not that simple. If you want to build a brand, it's different than it used to be. You need money. Unless you get lucky and hit a grand slam on your first bat.
Yeah. But sorry, go back to my question. Like, how do you go about doing offer testing properly?
So the actual offer itself.
Yeah. Like different prices, different packages. Have you done that for your brand or no?
Yeah. So we offer a few different varieties and anywhere from price point, around $60 to $150. And honestly, it's difficult to test. I think if you have both options there, we're offering for this particular product, we have 2 versions. One that's less expensive and one that's more expensive. And we incentivize people to take the more expensive one with gifts. And I would say 80 to 90% of people take the more expensive one. But I don't think that there's an exact science that you can roll out and say this is, when you only have a few hundred or maybe 100 visitors a day because you're spending $2 to $3 a click, whatever it is. I think you just kind of you've got to use a bit of that gut feel and you see what's working. I do like to track things like revenue per session, but you could have 2 ads that go to the same landing page that have incredibly different revenue per session because one takes somebody further through the customer journey. So it's, there's a lot of nuance. I don't have a black and white solution. I think you just have to spend a little bit of money, figure out what the market's asking for, figure out, where you want to be in the space. And unfortunately, if you want to be profitable in the first purchase, you either have to charge more money or you have to sell people more things.
Yeah, on the next episode, maybe we can do a little bit of a deep dive on kind of the last 4 months. What are some things you tried? What are some things you didn't try? And how did you finally crack the code? I think that would be quite interesting for a lot of listeners here. And then I think I just have one more. Then we can kind of go on to your stuff. Oh, and the last thing D basically said is TikTok Shop is not the greatest platform to launch in 2026. I think he had mentioned TikTok Shop is very different than today than it was a couple years ago. There is, he's definitely it's a good place for you to launch your brand. But nowadays, he said, because someone asked the question hey, if I have $50,000, which platform do you think I should go all in on when launching a new brand? And they wanted to launch a TikTok. He's like, listen, like 50,000, you're not going to get anything on TikTok. Like you need so much more than that. And that's the experience I had as well with my new brand. I tried to launch on TikTok with an agency, and we literally got 3 sales. Like, and I don't think TikTok is necessarily like revenue channel. I think TikTok is probably more like very, very top of funnel awareness. So measuring the sales on TikTok specifically is probably not like, I don't think there's too many brands that are like super profitable on TikTok shop. I think you just need to really get is a demand generation. So, but yeah, he was kind of just saying, yeah, TikTok shop, if you have $50,000, don't do TikTok, just do Meta. Meta is still king. So yeah, so those are kind of the lessons I've learned from someone who's doing $1.5 billion a year.
That's interesting. You know, I think like a couple things about the TikTok shop thing. Like I'm not actively using it with this brand. I'm using it with another one. But I think there's 2 things there. Like I think people need to shift how they look at TikTok shop as more of like, this is like a content flywheel, because if you can get the rights to use some of the content, like if you pump everybody's content they produce into GMV Max, you're going to see which ones do well. Although I do think a lot of like bottom of funnel creatives tend to excel in GMV Max, just because when you're holding the product up and flashing in front of the camera, people are, people, depending on what it is, there's a lot of like product aware, most aware audiences watching it. But I think that if you can use TikTok to make sales, generate a little bit of like top of funnel awareness, but then have agreements with your creators that you can access that content in some capacity, whether it's like to a percentage of revenue or affiliate or like a percentage of Facebook ad spend. I think like if you can get an army of people creating content around your product, it really eliminates a huge portion of like time and resources towards creating in-house creative or hiring agencies, because all of it can be doubled as creative on other platforms. Like just about everything that works on TikTok will work on Facebook as an app. I think there's caveats to it, but I do think it's probably a tough place to just start.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, it is interesting, right? He looks at he looks at TikTok very differently than Amazon, right? Amazon is strictly like, hey, let's make money on Amazon. Let's make all the margins on Amazon. TikTok is like, hey, I'm okay with just like losing a boatload of money every single month on TikTok shop. So every single channel kind of has its own purpose. So kind of like what you said, TikTok shop is probably much better for top of funnel. It's probably really good for content generation, but that's kind of all it's good. You got to get your expectations, right? Like don't think you're going to be profitable on TikTok shop. So
yeah,
I think that's
actually,
important to.
It's interesting too, like just kind of like what you just said there about how each platform has its role and each role has its place, right? Like when this was an internal debate a lot with like me and some of the finance team back in the day, is that like, oh, well, this platform's doing this ROAS and this platform's doing this ROAS. Why aren't we spending more on this platform? And like usually we'd lead back at Facebook because Facebook generally had the highest attributable revenue. But like if you're doing YouTube, you have to set your expectations like this, can't track every sale. So what's the CPA threshold on YouTube when you know that it's like driving incremental sales over on Facebook, or it's driving incremental sales on Amazon? You can't just look at everything like this is equal, this is equal, this is equal. Like what is the purpose of this channel? How much more can we spend per customer acquisition if we know that it's doing positive things on other channels? And I think that a lot of brands don't jump into other channels because they don't see the efficacy that they see on Facebook. And I'm not saying for people to go jump into other channels, because you can get, 20, 30, 40, 50 million a year in revenue out of Facebook if you got a large enough TAM. But like when you do start introducing those other channels, you have to like set your expectations accordingly, because they have slightly different purposes and they have different benefits.
It's kind of like running Facebook ads as well, right? Like you have one video that's like top of funnel video, and then you have one image that's like very bottom funnel, and then the image is getting like 6 ROAS, and then the video on the top is not really getting much. So you're like, oh my God, the image must be so much better than the video. It's like, not really. Like people have seen the video, then they saw the retargeting of the image, and then they click on the ad, then they buy it. And then, so how can, like, it works together, not separately.
And if you go turn off that video ad, now all of a sudden the image ad doesn't work anymore, right?
Yeah, I was having a discussion about this with someone else yesterday. He's like, oh, look at because I did a filming day the other day for a side project that I'm doing, and I took so long to film and editing and so on and so forth. And he just like created an image off of like on his notepad on Apple, like, the Apple notepad image. He's like, dude, there's no way this is like outperforming your videos, man. Like I just made this in like 5 seconds. I'm like, nah, that's not really how it works, right? Like people see the video first, then they click on the notepad. So it works together, not separately. Yeah, cool. So Ryan, why don't you maybe talk to us a little bit about how, like, what are you doing on Claude right now? I know you're like super deep into AI right now. I know you build like tons of tools for yourself. Maybe if you want to share with us like how you're using AI, or like what is the favorite tool that you built, how has helped you in your ecom journey. Like, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, why don't I start? I'll give a little bit of like actionable advice for people that are just primarily using like Claude or ChatGPT. I think a lot of people, they go into AI and they'll ask their questions or whatever, and every single time it's a little bit different. Like the response, like sometimes it hallucinates things. Sometimes, I don't know, the day-to-day stuff seems simple, but as soon as you try to involve your business, don't get consistent results. So about 2 years ago, I started like thinking like, man, it would be so nice if I could like have all of my brand information in like a database or something, so that I could just like, whenever I went to go prompt whatever particular thing that I wanted to do, like I used to build Claude projects, which I kind of like, they're still all right, but I would have like knowledge bases and stuff in these things. I'd have to go and gather all of my brand information before I went to do something. Like I would say I'd like create like a VSL script or like come up with hooks or whatever, but like I'd always be like, I'd give it a URL, or I'd be copying and pasting my landing page and dropping it in there, and like it just was inconsistent. So like I started out by creating like worksheets for my brands. So what I would do is I basically have all the information about a brand in a document, like the offer, like who the avatar is, like the persona, basically the unique mechanism of the product, like just basically everything that you can think of, nicely organized inside of a document. And then whenever I wanted to do something with AI, or I built like a project, or I build knowledge bases around a particular activity, I could give it all the context around the brand, so that whatever it was producing was accurate to what what we're trying to be represented as a brand. And the outcomes started becoming the outcomes from the LLMs, like the outputs, so like the VSL scripts, the Facebook ad copy, whatever we were trying to achieve wound up being way more tailored to the brand and a lot less like AI slop. So that was like,
And so it's a master document that you have about the brand. Is that just a PDF?
no, so like initially I would just like store these inside of like a Google Doc, and then you could connect it to Claude Code. So personas, the like all the landing page information, like that was like V1 of what I started with. And then I was like, man, well, it's kind of annoying trying to dig through all these documents every time that I want to do this. I'm trying to remember which projects need which documents. So I started building out like a database with like all the information inside of a database, so that I could like directly access it that way. And this all kind of evolved, but I eventually built out an entire platform that stores like all the brand information, reviews, like everything you can think of. And then instead of using like Claude projects, I would build tools for, things like generating angles on one of the brand personas, or even like producing static image ads for a brand that are congruent with the landing page. Or I don't know, like I made a ton of different stuff now, but I think like if somebody wanted to go and kind of like replicate this context that I'm talking about now, that there are tools out there. Like I also use a tool called GBrain, which is a GitHub. We can put the link in the description. It's made by Gary Tan, who's the CEO of Y Combinator. And I use it for like my personal context. Like it ingests all my emails, it ingests all of my meetings, it ingests my LinkedIn, it ingests all these different things. And it takes all of this data and it creates like a CRM. It creates like companies that I know, and it enriches every single one and creates a timeline of all the activities that I've ever had with all these people. So basically the rule is, if I talk to somebody 3 times, creates a stub for this person. And if I talk to them more than 3 times, it starts to create it creates a proper page and enriches them, finds all their social media, like starts to understand who they are. And every time we have a communication, it builds like a timeline. And you could use a tool like this also for your brand. So what's cool about GBrain specifically is, once it's set up, you can either set it up on like a Mac Mini, or you can set it up using like Render or like Railway or something like that with OpenClaw. And what's cool about it is it's got an MCP. So like you can connect it to Claude, and then you can literally ask it a question, or you can ask Claude a question and say, like, let's just say you've been pulling in you've got your Facebook MCP connected and all that's been pulling in there. You can say, pull my top 10 Facebook ads over the last whatever period, or give me an outline for 10 new ads that are similar to these, or like help me identify the engine of what made these videos or these creatives work well. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling a bit here. I actually had a big chat this morning with a few people about GBrain in context. And I think big thing that you're going to see in the next like 6 months to a year is people focused on context. Because like Fable and like ChatGPT Soul, they are so friggin' smart now. They fire up multiple agents. They can do the craziest stuff. Like you can get Fable to edit videos for you. Like the other day, I'm like, it just uses FFmpeg, but I'm like, can you chop the first sentence off of this video? And it went and did it and spat it back to me. So like the next level here is like the LLMs, like the top models can hold about 1 million context right now. The next level is like, how do we retain our brand context and our brand memories and the things that are important so that they persist through multiple conversations and they continue to get updated and enriched over time, and that the models themselves have access to this context base so that it doesn't just go and do the same shit a second time. You know, like if you already had this one ad, it doesn't go and write the same or a similar script again because it already knows that we've done that and we've tried that. And it allows them to go to the next level. I know it's not really showing any tools here, but
No, it's super helpful, dude. I mean, look, I think AI is only as good as the input that you give it. So what you're talking about right now is enriching the input.
Yeah.
And on top of that is able to continuously read the input, and then it will just continuously enrich that pool of input.
Yeah.
So it does get smarter and smarter and smarter based off that pool of input that you have given it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So this whole, okay, so I've never done anything like on GitHub. I've heard of it, obviously. Okay, like what is GBrain? Let's just use that as an example, right?
Yeah.
I've never done anything on GitHub and stuff like that. So I go on GitHub, I find GBrain, and is it like a file that I download or like what is it? And do I upload that? Like, okay, I download the file if it's a file.
I'll tell you from scratch, okay? Okay, here's what you do.
Okay, tell me the scratch.
Install Claude Code on your computer. You can either use Claude Code or like if you got a Mac, you can use conductor.build. That's what I use. But like just start with Claude Code. You get Claude Code on your desktop, go to the GitHub repository or that GitHub URL for GBrain, which I'll send you. And I would just go into Claude Code and be like, I want to install GBrain. Here's the GitHub repository. Please review all the instructions. And like you can go on there. There's like an instruction page. Copy that and paste that into the chat as well. Please walk me through installing this. And I would use the word canonically on GBrain specifically because it's pretty complex and Claude sometimes likes to just go and do its own shit. But like once you have Claude Code on your computer, you can go to a GitHub repository and put it in Claude Code and be like, install this for me. And it'll just set it up locally on your computer, or if you want to put it on like a server, or a server setup like Railway or something, you can specifically ask it to do that as well. But I mean, this sounds like it would be a pretty good video for a whole nother video, not necessarily a podcast. But I think that from the outside looking in, it feels scary, daunting, complex, and that you need to know how to code. You don't.
Yeah. You just ask Claude. Be like, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do.
And it'll literally like, you can say like, can you do this for me? It'll be like, here's how you do it. I'll be like, can you do it? And it will literally use terminal on your computer if you're on a Mac, and it will run the command for you. If there's something that specifically needs a human to do it, it'll tell you how to do it. But like, it is an amazing tool. Like, I think that GitHub stuff does seem scary. It used to seem scary to me too. But once you set it up and install Claude Code and just start, like I was showing somebody yesterday who'd only ever used Claude. He's like, why would I use Claude Code? I'm like, because it can do so much more, you know, like you still just talk to it like a human. You don't need to know how to program anything. It'll do it for you.
You only use Claude as well, just the chat. I mean, the easiest way to explain it is like Claude chat is more like a Google search almost, whereas Claude Code is like, it will do stuff for you. So like, I designed a fitness app in one shot. Basically, I'm getting back into the gym now that my health is better, and I really want to focus on progressive overload. So for those that don't know, it's like every single week I need to beat the last week in terms of how much I'm lifting, and that's how you get stronger and more size. Because so many times I go to the gym, I don't even remember how much I lift last time. I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna lift this weight. But you want to have a structure to that. So I created an app. It's a web app. It's not on the App Store or anything, but it's like for personal use. Then before that, I basically created, for our golf trip, I created a tournament tracker. So every single person, like there's 2 groups so that we can put everybody's scores in, and they'll do like a live leaderboard. So it's kind of like PGA stuff. So I actually think the future of apps are personalized, customized apps tailored specifically towards what you want and your group or its users. It's not going to be like, oh, I need to find an app. Let me go on the Apple Store and type in like lifting weights, because that's for the masses. I think the future of apps are actually going to be something where a person can literally just be like, hey, I need an app for golfing. I need an app for going to the gym. I need an app for cooking. And then like in 5 minutes, you'll have an app that's specific, tailored to your own personal needs. And the cool thing is I can make changes to the app. So I went to the gym and I noticed that I don't like this and this. So I just went back to the Claude and be like, hey, I just came back from the gym. Can you put the timer here? Can you put the timer there? And over a period of time, V5, V10, whatever it might be, I'm going to have an app that I'm going to use that I love.
Yeah. Oh, I think we're pretty much already there. Like, I think it's just a matter of like my 12-year-old uses ChatGPT. He's not making apps or anything like that, but like knee deep in it. Like he doesn't even use Google.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I like used Google, to be honest with you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty crazy.
I know.
Sweet. Cool, man. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys got a lot of value. By the way, the next pod, I want to start a new segment where we answer one of your questions about ecom, about your business. So if you're listening to this, put a question down below. If you're listening to Spotify, if you're listening to Apple or whatever it might be, just post a question in the comment section. We're going to be picking one question, write something like, how do I make $1 million? Like just be specific. We're going to pick the best question. And then on the next podcast, we're going to answer a question somewhere in between. So it's a brand new segment where we're going to engage with the viewers. Cool. So guys, thank you all so much. If you can, please subscribe to the channel, drop us a like, comment something down below. Really appreciate your time. Hopefully you got a lot of value. Ryan and I had a lot of fun doing this, and we'll all see you in the next week.
See ya.